Calls to extend Jobkeeper. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.Heise here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. I have my morning coffee that I'm working through. I thought we'd have a look at this article discussing recent calls from our Reserve Bank governor to extend the Jobkeeper program. Now today we've looked at other topics, some Jobkeeper recipients refusing to go into work, affecting the childcare industry, the potential for a real estate, property cliff when mortgage holidays pull away, and calls for calls to remove that cliff and more intervention in the market. So what do you think? Do you think, before we even get into this, do you think they will just switch off Jobkeeper? Or do you think they will phase it out over time? Or do you think this is the first step towards UBI, Universal Basic Income? I'm skeptical of UBI because all of the positives that people argue for, simplification of our welfare system, remove it all, just one payment, I think they'll just complicate it more. You'll get UBI Plus, you'll get UBI version 2. Oh, you're eligible for UBI plus the UBI bonus payment because you've got, baldness. Maybe we need the baldness minority need to get together and demand payment for extra razor blades. What do you reckon, guys? Should we be getting UBI baldness package? Let me know in the comments. So let's have a look at this. RBA's Philip Lowe says rates won't rise for some years, but Jobkeeper may need to be extended. So here's one thing to keep in mind, guys. We're going to have artificially low interest rates for years. So there's going to be cheaper access to money. And then with the Cantillon effect, wherever that money is created, there is going to be a bubble. And usually the path for money into Australia is through mortgages. And that's going into property. So we've got to keep that in mind when people are predicting a fall in property. Because that's going to be the path in there, guys. Reserve Bank Governor Philip Lowe says the Jobkeeper program may need to be extended if the workforce needs it. He warned Australia's economy would hit a critical point in September when a raft of stimulus measures stops. And it was very important not to withdraw fiscal stimulus too early. The key observation is that the world is very uncertain, and I think it's too early to say what it's going to be, what the economy is going to be like in 4 months' time, Dr. Lowe said on Thursday. But if we have not come out of the current trough in economic activity, there will be and should be a debate about how the Jobkeeper program transitions into something else, whether it's extended for a specific industry or somehow tapered. And that debate is starting to happen. We're starting to see it emerge more and more in the media, guys. In the media. Dr. Lowe was appearing before a federal parliamentary committee via video link. He said the economy may be in a better condition than originally feared, and the RBA had revised down its estimates for workforce hours lost in May from 20% to 15%. So there you go. There's some good news. People, you want good news on this channel? Right there. Working hours lost in May has been revised down by a quarter. It's only 15%, not 20%. That's good. However, However, he said even though some jobs in retail and hospitality were coming back as parts of the economy slowly reopened, jobs in industries like construction and professional services are starting to fall away. He said he was glad the 6-month Jobkeeper program will be reviewed at the 3-month mark. It's clearly going to be a critical point when that scheme comes to an end, and also when the deferral for 6 months of mortgage payments and other payments that the banks are offering. So that's a critical point for the economy, Dr. Lowe said. And he's right. He's right. We saw a previous piece where they were arguing about this real estate cliff that's going to emerge here. Now the banks are trying to pull every trick they can to keep this going. You're getting sick. Who would have thought the banks would be giving so many mortgage holidays when people were predicting this concern, or when people were raising issues like Martin North was talking about the impending switch from interest only to principal and interest. Can you just imagine, guys? Imagine someone having an interest-only loan and then going on a 6-month deferral. That just scares me, that prospect. because it's just going to build up. So what are they going to do to stop it? The more of this I look at, the more of the rhetoric I'm hearing from the politicians and from our leaders, the more I think they will do everything they can to keep this going. And it's going to be future generations that pay the price one way or another. One way or another. Because remember, all of this investment, all of this drive into property means that we're not getting any investment or growth in other parts of the economy. And sure, property's great, but it's not really that innovative, guys. Everyone. Houses have not gotten cheaper due to technology. Think about it. Think how expensive they are. If people knew what it costs to build some of these things, if they knew that, their lovely rendered house was mainly stud with a bit of foam on it, it'd make them angry when you know how much you pay for it, guys. Walk around Bunnings and have a look. So, I note the Jobkeeper program, it's 6 months, but a 3-month review was built into the program, and I think that was very sensible for the government to do. It will be important to review the parameters of the scheme. It may be in 6 months' time we bounce back well and the economy is doing reasonably well, and these schemes, which were temporary in nature, can be withdrawn without problems. But if the economy is not recovered reasonably well by then, as part of that review we should look at perhaps the extension of the scheme or the modification in some way. But I think at this point, it's too hard to say because the outlook remains very uncertain. But it's going to be a very critical point of the economy. Why isn't there any mention in any of this that we're seeing, or any of the articles that we're looking at, that perhaps we need to improve people's financial literacy planning so that our citizens all have 6 months of savings set aside for emergencies, that we don't need to turn to the state and future generations to handle this burden? Has that been mentioned anywhere in any of the news that we're looking at? Let me know in the comments, guys. Or is that victim blaming thing I keep doing, apparently? You can't blame people for not having savings. So interest rates are unlikely to rise for some years. Dr. Lowe said the RBA support package for the financial system released in March seemed to be performing well. He also emphasized that interest rates would likely remain at 0.25% for years until the unemployment rate fell back to 4.5%, which the RBA considers to be the rate of full employment. We're not going to be rising interest rates until full employment is in, and we're sustainable within the 2 to 3% target range for inflation, he said. I think it's reasonable to expect that will not be for some years. However, he also warned that if Australia did not see a recovery fairly soon, the risk of permanent damage to the labour market would rise. If that occurred, the level at which the economy is assumed to be at full employment could creep back up to 5%. We know from previous sharp economic downturns that there is scarring in the labour market, he said. People fall out of jobs and then have trouble getting back in. And then we have more long-term unemployment. If we don't get a decent recovery fairly soon, we'll see more scarring, which means the estimate of full employment starts to rise. And sadly, that's right. That's a sad dose of reality right there. It's a sad dose of reality right there, that when people get pushed out of the market, it's hard to get back in. I mean, I'm approaching 40, guys. I'm getting that age where if I was working for someone and lost the job, it would be bloody hard for me to get back in. Once you hit 40, then once you get 45, it gets even harder. Then every 5 years, it's kind of game over, guys. It's game over. So you need to reach a point where this is one thing we want to try and teach our children, is to be entrepreneurs and to individually create employment any way they can, just so you have, well, you don't fall into that trap, sadly. So, but he said the labour market was in a severe state of flux at the moment, and the unemployment rate was not the best indicator of its health. That is because thousands of people were currently working 0 hours, but were still considered employed thanks to the Jobkeeper program. Well, maybe we need to look at the Roy Morgan data, which is saying our unemployment combined with underemployment is at 25%, roundabout, of the workforce. 25% of the workforce, everyone. That was because thousands of people were currently, I've already read that. So a better indicator of health of the labour force was the number of hours worked by the workforce. On Thursday afternoon, Shadow Treasurer Jim Chalmers and Dr. Lowe's comments highlighted the dangers of the government's snap-back strategy and a rapid withdrawal of fiscal support. A sudden withdrawal of support for the economy in the last weeks of September makes no sense at all, Mr. Chalmers said. The Morrison government's lack of a plan for the months and years ahead means the downturn will be deeper than necessary, the unemployment queues longer, and the recovery more difficult. Here's the thing. Once you deploy the fiscal stimulus, the drugs to the economy, you're going to have withdrawal symptoms no matter one way or another when you take it off. Maybe it would have been better to not implement it. Maybe it would have been better to spend this time when they've had forced shutdowns in the economy increasing our medical capacity so that you can open up the economy faster. On Thursday, new figures showed 72% of businesses were now experiencing a decrease in revenue as a result of the pandemic, and roughly the same figure had access support measures. Separate ABS data showed private investment was broadly flat in the first 3 months of the year, but firms' expectation of future capital expenditure point to a huge drop in investments over the coming months, which honestly does not surprise me in the slightest. I don't know how the RBA or why the RBA is expecting anyone at all to invest in business. They were pushing for businesses to borrow. It just seems insane, guys. It really does. Well, as always, thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you're a fan and you'd like to support the channel, there's a few ways you can. You can comment, like, share, and subscribe. Get the content out there. You can support us via joining the channel on YouTube or on Patreon. You can purchase our merch from HeiseSays. Support us via using our affiliate links at Amazon or eBay or Independent Reserve and Kucoin. Use Gold Pass from the Perth Mint or support us via PayPal. Take care, everyone. I'll see you next time.